Hey, it's been a while. I did shut down my account the about a year ago, maybe deleted all the videos just because I was kind of worried about HR checks and stuff. But I guess that was kind of a lifetime ago. So I don't know. Just decided to start making videos again. Slightly out of boredom. I do kind of miss it. It was fun. Um, but anyways, yeah, I guess the FTX situation. I don't know. A lot of people have been reaching out to me, kind of worried about what's going on. Some of my Solana friends and just some of my friends in crypto in general. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting. I do think it is kind of similar to like Mt. Gox 2.0. I know that's not like the most popular opinion right now. A lot of people are trying to say that it's very different, just because market conditions. I mean, they sponsored the Miami Heat arena, I guess, for God's sake, and whatever. I don't know. I kind of just think it's another lesson in self custody, more or less. Obviously, new bells and whistles, just because crypto's a lot more. The ecosystem is just a lot more evolved. Marketing wise, public perception wise, collective consciousness wise, I guess it's more prominent in the zeitgeist. It's not just some random French dude running some old Magic the Gathering bootleg uh, Web 2 site in Tokyo anymore. It's more of this like international, has ties to the Democratic Party or Gary Gensler and whatnot. But I do think that is pretty interesting. Is it going to set the market back? I mean, obviously, it already set the market back if you look at like indicators to just price. What do we go from like 21K to 15K? But yeah, no, I mean, I just think it's honestly not the biggest deal I've ever seen. Do I think the market's going to recover? Yeah, I mean, obviously it's crypto. I mean, the market's going to fucking recover. Is this going to lead to like larger legislation or more urgent legislation? I mean, I guess you can make that argument. I mean, I still kind of hold my theory that crypto in general, like the free market, crypto is probably going to be regulated sooner rather than later. Just mostly due to the fact that I still don't think the governments are going to be okay with it. For example, I mean, you can look at what's going on in Cambodia right now with their central bank digital currency. I actually did get an opportunity to meet the founder of the company that's essentially trying to like roll out the integration of that like private blockchain. I think they're using like that Hyperledger technology, which essentially you're just kind of just using that. Again, not really familiar with Hyperledger, but if I were to roll this out and I was a central bank, essentially I would probably just like use some basic form of the data structure, the blockchain data structure itself. Maybe augment the consensus protocol, obviously. So basically, you have full control over it. And I did hear that they are primarily doing that to try to circumvent some of the issues with the IMF and subsequently the United States government in general. Um, and also they are kind of banning like the free market crypto. I mean, free market crypto is so I don't know. It really depends who you ask. I mean, a lot of the Bitcoiners are really going off right now about self custody and why this is all one big scam. And some of the Ethereum people are basically just saying, well, they didn't have their key, and some of the Bitcoin people will go back and forth and say, well, bunch these mining pools, especially now that we moved to ETH 2.0. If they start to censor the stakers, these large centralized entities essentially want to comply with whatever is the current bullshit government regulation. I don't know. I don't want to say bullshit government regulation. I mean, just something that maybe like a purely decentralized theist might not necessarily agree with. But yeah, I do think that that is kind of an inevitability. Whether or not we're going to have to see some of the slashing wars that are going to take place on Ethereum, and obviously a lot of these funds are going to get rehypothecated. And what I mean in like I guess more simple, non this weird bullshit jargon that I tend to use, is that like let's say that you are an entity of 32, could be an individual, could be an organization, whatever, a group. You have 32 ETH, you put that in a staking pool. Your staking pool, essentially, you're supposed to be participating in consensus, right? The generalized consensus protocol. But there are kind of situations where you can put these in pools, like Lido, for example. So you can essentially like put some of your Ethereum, your ETH, inside of this pool that you essentially wrap this ETH, and this ETH can be rehypothecated. And what I mean by that, it can be used again. It's kind of similar to like some of like the reusing collateral twice that happens a lot in more traditional markets, such as the repo market. I think it was really kind of blown up in terms of public perception, kind of like during the Big Short, like that movie kind of when they talk about like it's slightly different than like these derivative bets, like the ones that like Selena Gomez and that one guy are going off about, like that blackjack hand, if you know that scene, if you know what I'm talking about. So it is sort of different in that sense. But yeah, I mean, in general, I do think that it basically is just this whole FTX thing. I mean, it is funny. Obviously, the memes are fucking hilarious. Like you see that girl. I feel kind of bad for that chick. I mean, I don't really know her, and she's kind of getting a bum rap a little bit. The CEO of Alameda Research, I forgot her name. It's supposed to be some like big MIT collusion with Gary Gensler and all these people, but really, who's to say? I mean, who knows what is actually going on with these things? But for better or worse, I just think that it is kind of entertaining. The Solana thing, the Solana dump. Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of these things are going to be interconnected. Um, I don't know. I think it's overall good. I mean, I kind of wasn't really liking the scene where crypto Web3 was sort of moving, and I mean, I guess kind of a update for me. I've kind of decided to go more into like the decentralized programming. In general development, I actually went to ETH Global SF a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago. I can't remember. Yeah, probably about a week and a half ago. It was fun as hell. I'd definitely go again. That's where I got some of this free hat, like Scale. Scale's kind of cool. That free blockchain. Well, it's supposed to be gasless and EVM compatible. I don't know. It's kind of weird. You have to preload the blockchain whenever you want to deploy on it. But I didn't really work on it. I just, free hat. I like free hat. My favorite type of hat is a free hat. Just like my favorite type of food is free food. But yeah, no, I mean it's overall been an interesting year, I guess, since I've been uploading. A lot of ups, lots of downs. I don't know. It's like I would say that I'm probably less for those of you that are returning that used to watch my channel maybe like a year or two ago, back in like 2020, 2021, where I was like really posting like every day. Um, yeah, I mean, I would say I'm kind of less into like economics and markets and crypto in general. I mean, is it a bear market? Maybe that's it. A little bit, but I also think, I did have some like, I don't know, life's changed a lot in the last year. So some good, some bad. I mean, overall, life is good. So can't really complain, but um yeah, no, I mean, I think I've been focusing more on like just random shit, writing, music, I guess, sort of. No, I mean not writing music. I mean writing music, writing other random shit, and just philosophy, reading random shit. I don't know, exploring. I don't know, weird year. But yeah, less on probably a little bit less on markets. I mean, maybe for the sake of this, might try to get back into it. But I'm kind of thinking making this like more generalized, just whatever I want to talk about, whether it's book I read, random thought I've had going on a hike or something, or just maybe just talk about the Warriors or some shit. I don't know. But or just I don't know, just random stuff like my thoughts on hentai. I mean, not trying to be like, I mean, at this point, I kind of genuinely just don't care as much about getting in trouble with the local looky looks. Oh yeah, I guess also I had long hair last time I was filming these, so that was fun. Yeah, I did get it cut. Uh, so back to the short hair. Probably will want to go back to the long hair eventually, hopefully sooner rather than later. But I don't know. Sometimes you just got to fit into society more, for better or worse. And I don't know. It's kind of a hassle. Compromise, I guess. Cut your hair. It's a little bit more of a go with the flow sort of. I don't even know what the hell I'm saying anymore. I feel like this has just gone really off tangent, but I don't know. Yeah, I've decided, even if I'm just posting these videos as some sort of like video vlog, I guess that's originally my intention. Actually, when I started making these videos, was I figured, free recording, send it out there. If someone like watches it, I guess that's great. But it's always good to use YouTube's file storage. I mean, they can basically hold all the storage hardware shit, so I don't have to, I guess. And I mean, is it really that different from just like posting a video and like putting it on like some Google Drive somewhere or some like free like cloud storage system like that? I mean, I guess not, but hell, it's a little bit more fun to just put it out there and just say random gibberish. So, guess trying to think thoughts on other stuff, market in general. Yeah, some people have been asking me. I don't know why. Seriously, I don't understand why people are always like, "Kyle, should I buy now? Is this now the time to buy? Like, should I buy something?" Like, it's like, motherfucker, you think you think I know? There's no fucking way I know. And B, conjecture, but I do think that I think we're going lower. I mean, to be honest, I mean, you could make the argument that the most recent CPI print is somewhat bullish. I did hold that thesis that I did think that we were going to kind of see some inflection going into the midterms. I guess that was super fucking wrong. Um, I guess my new going thesis is that we probably will see some sort of inflection. If I had to guess, maybe like May to July, some period of like early summer next year, and that's mostly based off of the CPI numbers. You know, just think of the way that those are kind of like, I don't want to say index, but those are kind of like it's a self yearly referential system in the sense where like you're basically just comparing your numbers and the rate of change over whatever the rate of change was for the last year, right? And that like first derivative slope kind of is what people are primarily looking at. When I see people, I mean like the politicians who kind of in turn control what Jerome Powell does with interest rates. And I do think that this was a pretty interesting time for America in general, just kind of like showing out there is like, look, we really forgot how powerful the euro dollar system is. And kind of going back to what I was saying about, I hate to pick on like Cambodia, because again, I've never been there. I don't know jack shit about Cambodia, but I do think that it is kind of a quintessential example of sort of like, I don't want to say like a developing country and how they're sort of, well, take them as like their location, right? Southeast Asia is like really where are they going to get their money from? They could kind of try to go through. It's not like the Cambodian central bank has a direct swap line with the Federal Reserve, right? So maybe they do actually. I don't really know, but I doubt it. I think they probably have to go through the IMF and try to get those funds that way. And obviously carry trade. There's a lot of inefficiencies there, a lot of friction, monetary friction. I guess you could try to go through China, but China's going through their own shit right now. I don't think that it was a huge surprise to people if you really were paying attention to what was going on in China. But obviously, I'm saying that in hindsight. I mean, look, everyone sounds like a fucking genius in hindsight, right? Because like I got called that shit. I knew that shit. I knew that shit was gonna pop. But anyways, yeah, that could be a video within itself. I'll probably do that later. As for American politics, I mean, I didn't vote. I'm not a voter. I mean, like fuck it. Again, that could be a rabbit hole within itself. But people are talking about how the Democrats were able to maintain, or the Senate, or maybe they lost the Senate. I genuinely don't remember, but I don't really think it matters. And for those of you that did watch my videos, maybe about a year ago, I did talk about like reconciliation, which was essentially kind of being able to break up the large like fiscal, like the federal, like the federal government's sort of like budgetary um policy sort of into three parts where you can push reconciliation. The issue with it is that instead of needing like super majority to pass some random shit through the Senate, you just need 50% majority for this specific reconciliation that only pertains to the budget, which again can be broken down annually into three parts. So essentially, you get three shots at it, and the controlling party essentially, well, you only need 50%. I guess you need 50%. Technically, the tiebreaker goes to the VP. So for the last 2 years, obviously, Kamala Harris was the vice president. So she was technically a part of the Senate. She was the tiebreaker. So really, you only needed 50 votes to pass whatever the fuck you wanted. And they had the whole that Joe Manchin thing. I don't want to get into that. I used to talk about that a lot. But I don't think it's as relevant, to be honest, as it originally was, primarily due to the fact that there is already excess funds, right, in the reverse repo market. And these kind of got pushed off balance sheet and into these money market funds, which subsequently started to lend them through the reverse repo market, which again is like the lower bound, I believe, of what that Federal Reserve oscillation, like the Federal Reserve, when people talk about interest rates, you're talking about the federal funds rate. The federal funds rate essentially is not something that the Federal Reserve can like directly hard target. They set an upper bound and a lower bound, right? I believe the upper bound is basically the interest on reserves, and the lower bound is the reverse repo rate. Again, if people are curious, or if I ever feel like just talking more into it, I can explain like kind of why those work the way that they work. But essentially, that is sort of how it plays out. And there are, I believe, excess of around $2 trillion in the reverse repo market. And again, the only thing that, in my opinion, really prevents that money from entering back into the kind of that broad money supply that can kind of be thrown back into like, juicing up equity values, increasing inflation, whatever the fuck you want to use it for. But it's like real money, right? The real money or whatever. And really, I don't even think that actually needs congressional approval. I believe that really is a decision of three governmental entities. I believe one is the Federal Reserve, two is like the FDIC or FICC or some random shit. But essentially, they're both pretty much like yes men to the Federal Reserve. Again, I don't know, but that is my conjecture. So essentially, I believe if the Federal Reserve wants to inject like real money into the government, they no longer need like the congressional approval of the Senate. I guess technically the House and the Senate, just congressional approval in general of the legislative branch, but they don't necessarily need them anymore because they can kind of just play around with that SLR and the GSIB score metrics or whatever to try to get that like idle cash and push that into the markets. So they at least have like $2 trillion of like dry powder. And also there's a lot of talk of like, the Treasury is going to try to do their own quantitative easing type thing where they sort of like do these buybacks. Well, I don't know. I mean, again, I think that you're gonna kind of just sort of run into a similar issue where you are sort of just hitting that SLR cap. But obviously, I think we're pretty below that SLR cap. And you can make the argument that due to the fact that interest rates up, it's a lot more, it's easier for like these banks essentially that were SLR bound before, they're going to have more sheet capacity just due to the fact that they're preferred equity, the preferred stock is going to be performing better, right? You're going to get a higher rate of return, which essentially kind of expands your balance sheet because that was sort of the numerator, right? When you think about SLR calculations, your tier one capital divided by your overall balance sheet risks. Which is essentially just a really, I don't want to say it's a simple equation, but for all intents and purposes, you can essentially think of it's kind of like a summation, except like each of the specific categories have their own risk modifier. So, for example, like you can hold a fuck ton of um, cash, essentially reserves, whatever you want to call it, or treasuries, right? Because these essentially have in gold basically have a one risk modifier, which essentially means it's 1 to 1 versus if you're holding like a risky equity like Facebook stock, for example, or nat like SPY ETFs, or I don't know, some random shit or rates, whatever. Or even MBS. I think even MBS actually has like let's say it's like a 1.1 or 1.4, depending on how risky it is. And I've never really dove into those numbers myself specifically, just whatever. I'm kind of lazy and I don't care enough. But yeah, I mean, look, I do think that's kind of my overall feeling on the market. I have a feeling we're gonna kind of be in this, probably gonna, take some slapping around probably through the end of the year. More layoffs, especially in tech. Obviously, tech is gonna get hit harder just because of the sensitivity to interest rates and their value, blah 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 blah. Whether that's funding or just equity value, seriously, however you want to place that. But obviously, they're more interest rate sensitive. But yeah, I mean, the whole FTX thing too, I do think, is it going to scare a lot of people out of the market? I mean, yeah, probably. I mean, Joe Schmo or whatever. I don't want to say Joe Schmo. That sounds, that's pejorative. I don't want to sound condescending or some bullshit, but I do look at it that way. But yeah, I don't know. Just overall, life's been interesting, I guess. Been a year. Shit, my ass is almost turning 26, and I don't know. It's just weird, I guess. Just thinking about time flying and things you thought would be in your life aren't in your life, and the things that you thought you would have, I guess, at a certain point you thought you would have, and shit that you would care more about, you just find yourself caring less about it, I guess, as time goes on. It's just a weird societal thing, I suppose, especially depending on where you live. But I don't know. It's just overall, but that's probably a video for another day. Just going off of that rant. I realized that the last like 30, 45 seconds of what I said is basically just mumbling gibberish where I was having conversations in my head, but was like, just didn't want to say it on like screen for whatever reason. But I guess that's just kind of life's been recently. But anyways, yeah, shit. I mean, if anyone wants specific topic covered, crypto related, economic, for just like basically any topic about fucking anything, just leave it in the comment. I'm really not as interested in economics and markets as I once was. I just figured, shout out to anyone that used to watch my videos. I mean, I used to love my audience, man. You guys are fun as fuck, even though there weren't a lot of you guys, but every time that, it's a few familiar faces, we talk about shit. It was always a good time. But yeah, just let me know, man. Any questions? I love talk. I'll answer anything. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about shit. I just don't know what people want to hear. And I guess what I want to talk about is mostly just fucking gibberish anyway. So, all right. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. Hopefully I'll be posting somewhat frequently. I mean, it is fun, especially interacting. That's the best part. So, but other than that, I guess I'm just rambling into the void, just like usual, except this time I'm recording it. So, all right. Peace.